The mighty Kalahari Desert. A scorched land where only the toughest survive. Even so, this inhospitable expanse is home to some of southern Africa's most appealing characters. That rely on their wits and teamwork to thrive. For these remarkable desert dwellers, family comes first. Stretching over 900,000 square kilometers across southern Africa lies an immense thirsty landscape. The ancient Kalahari Desert, as old as the African continent and bone dry. Here, summer days regularly top 37 degrees Celsius, and rainfall is scarce. But this isn't a typical desert. The arid wilderness is dotted with grasses and thorn trees, which suck moisture from deep below the surface. Animals live here too, like these sociable weavers, who build large communal nests out of grass and twigs. Group living in this harsh world makes sense. A strategy also adopted by meerkats. Resident families are as hardy as they come. Meerkats are a type of mongoose, measuring up to 30 centimeters in length and weighing less than a kilogram. They are carnivorous and eat a variety of prey species, such as small reptiles, grubs, scorpions, and beetles. They share their range with equally tenacious ground squirrels. These neighbors have much in common, not least their key survival tactic. While they look out for each other on the surface, their secret to success is going underground. Here, both species are insulated from the elements and can escape hungry predators. From the safety of interconnected burrows, they venture out to explore the vast landscape. For the highly social meerkats and those around them, desert life is challenging every step of the way. After many months of drought, the Kalahari is at its most punishing. Survival depends not only on individual and collective strength, but also on a rare event. Finally, rain clouds are building. Dawn reveals water-filled lake beds. But these ephemeral pools will soon soak away into the desert's parched sands. A female meerkat is the first to investigate her freshly watered world. The land is cool and damp this morning, full of possibility. Soon, other members of her family follow. After a cold night, they warm up in the early morning sun. But even while sunbathing, they must be wary, ever on the lookout for predators. And today there is extra reason for this vigilance. Pups. These 5 youngsters are barely 3 weeks old, and until now have been confined to a protected life in the burrow. This is their first time out in the big wide world. For such tiny toddlers, it's dangerous out here, so they stay close to the adults. The pups will be weaned in the coming weeks and will have to fend for themselves soon. But for now, Mum's milk is their main source of nourishment. Without her, they can't survive. Meerkat society is matriarchal, and the dominant female gives birth to around 80% of all new family members. She is wearing a radio collar, which enables researchers to keep track of her and her troop. As the dominant male, Dad also plays an important role in the family, but has less influence than Mum. although he's sometimes left to babysit the playful infants. Who are forming bonds that will be important for their future. The alpha mother has a lot of responsibility. She also has to look after her older set of pups, who are now teenagers, as well as leading the adults of the pack, most of whom are related. There are about 20 meerkats in this complex family hierarchy, and they all help with babysitting. Just like human infants, these little ones need constant care and attention. Protecting them from predators is a full-time job. Fortunately, there's always a sentry on duty. Like any household, there are chores to do at the meerkat residence. Maintaining the burrow entrance is crucial, as it serves as their getaway when danger strikes. It's a job shared by all the family, including one of the juveniles. But some of the boisterous teenagers have other ideas. It looks rough, but it's just play fighting. A favorite pastime of these feisty little mammals. The reason behind this behavior is not fully understood. It may have implications for social ranking and group cohesion, as well as honing agility and strength. Mum makes an appearance, but it seems she is exempt from wrestling. One of the teenagers has got his sibling in a headlock. But soon, he's at the bottom of the pile. Whatever the reason for this roughhousing, it certainly looks like fun. Games aside, the family is hungry, and they can't afford to waste valuable hunting time. This is the first time the babies are joining a foraging mission, and Mum is aware of the perils facing them. But the overnight rains promise an abundance of food. In a place where famine often trumps feast, she knows they must take advantage of every opportunity. Luckily, she has security measures in place. Her large territory is dotted with bolt holes, ensuring that the family is never far from cover, should one of their numerous predators arrive. She also has sentries posted on elevated lookout points. It's often the lower-ranked males that are put on duty. They take their jobs seriously. They have to. The safety of the family depends on them. And today, they're on high alert. The youngest pups are extremely vulnerable to predators. This makes Mum very nervous. Danger could come from anywhere at any time. Being out in the open is a new experience for the tiny pups, who call to the adults and do their best to keep up. This is a stressful time for the family. They need to teach the babies how to find a meal while making sure that they don't become one for something else. Luckily, there's an easy snack up for grabs today. The rain has triggered the emergence of termites. Driven by the need to mate and create new colonies, they take to the skies. But often the termites don't get very far, simply becoming a welcome bite for the hungry meerkats. Packed with protein, the tiny insects make a perfect breakfast. Although this youngster isn't sure about eating the scaly wings. Often the best way to learn new skills is by watching your parents. One of the most important lessons a youngster must learn is digging. It's one of the secrets to a meerkat's success in the desert. Adults have long claws, which make them powerful diggers, shifting heaps of sand in seconds. A skill that the young ones have yet to master. The babies still have a long way to go before they can forage for themselves. Even master diggers, like this adult, sometimes need to work incredibly hard to find food. He excavates with remarkable speed. There's something enticing hidden deep in the sand. While digging, meerkats can close their ears to stop them being filled with sand. A useful trick when you're tail deep in a hole. Finally, though, the promise of his reward is outweighed by the effort required to find it. Meerkats are in the precarious position of being both predator and prey in the Kalahari's food chain. These skies are home to a range of raptors. None of these birds of prey is more formidable than Africa's biggest, the martial eagle. With a wingspan of nearly 2.5 meters, massively powerful talons, and incredible long-distance vision, this eagle is a meerkat's worst nightmare. But a meerkat's eyes are specially adapted too. They are surrounded by dark fur, reducing glare and allowing them to scan the sky for threats, even while looking straight into the sun. The sentry sounds the alarm. The babies run for their lives. Through vigilance and teamwork, the gang have outsmarted the eagle. But the family is shaken. Cautious reconnaissance is done by all, checking that the threat has gone. The sentry's reassuring grunts confirm that the coast is clear. The group is in constant communication. It's a compulsive paranoia that keeps them alive. Airborne threats come in many shapes and sizes, including several species of owls, buzzards, and even smaller birds of prey, like kites. The meerkats' territory extends far across the desert, allowing them to forage new areas regularly. Mum knows just where to go for the best pickings. Calling the shots is hard work. But being the boss has its perks. Her sister has caught a large rodent, and the alpha female wastes no time in claiming it for herself. Still nursing her pups, she needs all the food she can get. By taking her sister's meal, she gains the sustenance of the rodent, as well as saving the energy it took to catch it. She also reasserts her position of control over the mob. Females usually maintain dominance for around 2.5 years, and she is in her prime. For the others, the choice is simple. If you want to be part of the gang, you follow her rules. But like all animals living here, the meerkats remain at the mercy of the desert. Some of the adults and older pups investigate the carcass of a bat-eared fox. But the youngsters won't go anywhere near it. Already covered in maggots, this individual has been dead for some time. It is a grisly sight that illustrates a harsh reality of life here. In the Kalahari, survival is not a given. The grim encounter is soon forgotten as the family gets on with what they do best, looking for food. One of the babies scores a big grub from his aunt, and he can't contain his excitement. This substantial meal keeps him occupied, giving Mum a moment to enjoy her favorite delicacy, a juicy scorpion. But it's not an easy meal, and tackling it requires skill. By eating the poisonous sting first, she neutralizes the threat of its venom, while also avoiding the large pincers. After her meal, Mum leads the family to one of their nearby bases. Shade is vital for the meerkats to avoid overheating in the brutal African sun. Everyone in the family needs a bit of downtime. And one of the teenagers seems to be ill. His sister stays close. Mum comes over to take a look too. But the lethargic youngster appears to recover as she gets caught up in the family antics. Their neighbors, however, don't have time for a midday break. African ground squirrels have abandoned life in the trees to scratch a living out on the desert floor. Being mostly vegetarian, there is no competition with the meerkats for food, which allows them to share territory. Unlike the meerkats, male and female ground squirrels live in separate groups, where dominance disputes are typically settled at a lightning pace. Ground squirrels eat a varied diet of plants, seeds, and roots. They have to forage throughout the day to get enough food. This season brings one of their favorite treats. The young leaves and juicy flowers of the devil thorn plant have just emerged. The flowers are a rare treat. Ground squirrels can tolerate high temperatures and baking sun. If they overheat, they have an ingenious solution. They simply erect their umbrellas. This allows ground squirrels to forage even in the hottest part of the day, when the meerkats are forced to take a break. As afternoon temperatures drop, the meerkats are ready to get moving. With high metabolisms, they have insatiable appetites. Mum leads the pack out for another session of foraging. Her growing family has lots of hungry mouths to feed, so there's no time to waste. Again, she claims a free meal from one of her gang. But she won't share it with her pup. It may seem cruel, but she needs the food to produce enough milk for all of her babies. This super mum is simply following her instinct to keep her whole family alive. For this youngster, who is still too young to fend for himself, hanging around behind his older brother may prove more fruitful. This time he is allowed to share. But this generosity won't last. Soon there will be no free lunches for the pups. They'll have to find food for themselves, which is hard work. As their older brother is demonstrating. He can smell something delicious beneath the surface. But sometimes the tastiest treats take some getting. Eventually, he finds it. A fat grub. For millipedes, like many insects, the rains signal that it's time to look for a mate. This baby doesn't know what to make of it. He's unsure how to tackle such an intimidating meal. Millipedes secrete a stinky, distasteful substance when threatened. An unappealing prospect to a youngster. But if hungry enough, meerkats will eat certain species of millipede, even though they often prove to be a second-rate dinner. One of the older, braver pups gives the scaly creature a go. But for the little ones, these prehistoric-looking crawlies are downright menacing. There are tastier options on the Kalahari's menu. This meerkat youngster has found a favorite meal. He's caught the tail end of what looks like a big worm. It's actually a legless reptile, known as a spade-snouted worm lizard. But he can't seem to get his paws on the rest of it. He's experienced enough to solve the problem by changing his angle of attack. It's a big meal. His younger sibling has also found a worm lizard, but he's struggling to get through it. It's just too much for the little meerkat. By late afternoon, the ground squirrels have also eaten their fill and take a moment to enjoy a more social pastime, grooming. This reaffirms the bonds within the group. It's also apparently very relaxing. While the ground squirrels are slowing down, the meerkat teenagers are speeding up. They have found a sandy ditch that's the perfect arena for some play fighting. The teenagers may have extra energy to burn, but the rest of the family devote the remaining hours of the day to finding food. This little one is confused about what exactly is edible. His dad's tail looks just like a juicy worm. Ants make a tastier snack. But for the inexperienced, catching them can be tricky. Because ants bite back. Some lessons in life are painful. Ants aren't the only biting things that these meerkats need to worry about. They have many natural predators. One such menace is the Cape cobra. A baby meerkat is just the right size to make an excellent meal for this cold-blooded killer. But the pack not only has the advantage of strength in numbers, meerkats also have remarkable immunity to snake venom and can survive a bite that would kill a fully grown man. While foraging, meerkats search for food in fallen trees used as hideouts by snakes. This means their paths often cross. Heading home, Dad spots something in the sand. A recently shed snakeskin. He investigates cautiously. To him, it reeks of danger. But the pack tackles it together. Meerkats tread a fine line between curiosity and caution. Along with intelligence and teamwork, these attributes are an effective defense against predators. Meerkats are known to mob snakes. It is believed this discourages the reptiles from taking up residence in the meerkat's living quarters. Mum supervises as the older kids pull the skin apart. Eventually, one of the pups plucks up the courage to approach. This is a vital lesson. Learning that snakes are dangerous and to be treated with extreme caution could mean the difference between life and death. After a day of close calls, it's time for the family to retreat to the safety of their burrow. For the youngest pups, their first outing has been an exciting but challenging journey. Learning how to be a meerkat is tiring work. They are so exhausted, they can hardly stay standing. It's been a momentous day for the whole gang, full of vital lessons and bonding experiences. For Mum, it's a job well done. Her growing family is well fed and home safe after another grueling day in the mighty Kalahari. Under the leadership of a determined alpha female, this meerkat troop is enduring against the odds. It's a tough existence, lived out under the glare of the desert sun and the gaze of predators. Meerkats may be small and vulnerable, but they are tenacious characters. Together, they are a force to be reckoned with. For this growing family, teamwork is not only keeping them alive, it is enabling them to thrive. A gang of true Kalahari survivors. A complex web of relationships rules all life on Earth. All species are interconnected. None can survive in isolation. While some relationships are one-sided, others are mutually beneficial. From loose associations to tight-knit partnerships. Everything has a place in nature's great scheme. The summer sun is baking the savannas of Africa. It's hot and dusty, and by mid-afternoon, the mercury has pushed over 100 degrees. Seeking relief from the thermal onslaught, this white rhino is heading for his local watering hole. Wallowing in the cool mud comforts the overheated male. He's not only hot, but also bothered by an infestation of blood-sucking ticks. The mud bath helps all round. The clay-like covering forms a hard crust when baked in the sunshine, allowing the rhino to rub himself down, knocking off the ticks. But this mud bath has another unexpected benefit. A group of very unusual beauticians is hard at work. They're African helmeted turtles. Ever the opportunists, today they're nipping ticks from the cracks and crevices of the giant's wrinkled old hide. Two animals mutually benefiting each other may seem unusual. But all across the continent, there are animals cooperating in a complex web of life. On the grassy savannas surrounding the waterhole, another mutually beneficial association is common. Cattle egrets are foraging alongside a herd of impala. They're after the bugs disturbed in the grass by the churning hooves. It's a clever strategy. Egrets following large grazers like this Cape buffalo catch up to 40% more prey than lone foragers. The benefits to the grazers, however, aren't as clear. although it's thought that the birds may operate as an early warning system when predators are near. Such teamwork is an integral part of life across Africa. From the great herds of the grassy savannas to the freshwater lakes, where flocks of birds numbering into the thousands congregate to reap the bountiful food rewards. Along its coastline, fish schools patrol the depths. While the surface boils with giant pods of common dolphins. These aggregations of individuals have multiple benefits. The more eyes looking out for predators, the better. And finding food in a group is often easier than going it alone. This is particularly true when different species work together. One of the best examples of loosely cooperating individuals of different species takes place on the open grasslands of East Africa. Here, great herds of wildebeest and zebra congregate on the golden plains to feast on the bountiful grass. While this looks like a random gathering, there is actually a specific organization in the way the two species operate. Both are grazers. But even though they live side by side, they target slightly different parts of the grass they eat. Zebras move through first, munching the tallest grasses. Their digestive system is capable of breaking down a variety of food, including old, dry, low-quality grass. In their wake come blue wildebeest, which are better adapted to eating shorter, more nutritious shoots. This relationship allows the two grazers to coexist. Complex interactions between species are not limited to animals, and some of the best examples occur in the lush mountain forests of Africa. From the treetops to the forest floor, light governs the fortunes of everything that lives here. The taller you are, the more you have. Trees invest in giant trunks to support a wide canopy high above the ground, ensuring they get the lion's share of sunshine. But one group has evolved a more cost-effective way to rise above the masses. These are epiphytes, otherwise known as air plants. They're a group of plants that all grow in the same way. Instead of using their own energy to reach the sunlight, they hitch a ride on strong, towering trees. Orchids are probably the best-known epiphytes. Their specially adapted roots anchor the plants to the trunk of their host. And as the tree grows, the air plant gets closer to the sun. But the roots are only for support. The plants are completely harmless, absorbing all the nutrients and water they need from the air or falling leaf litter trapped by their stems and roots on the trunk. Recent studies suggest that they actually confer some benefits to the trees on which they grow. In the forest, water is critical, and trees that are able to get more of it, or conserve the amount they have the best, grow better. It's thought that epiphytes increase the canopy density, creating a significantly cooler and moister microclimate. So the trees lose less water through their leaves. It seems that epiphytes may not simply be taking their unwitting hosts for a free ride after all. On the high Simien Mountains of Ethiopia, another epiphyte species has a more complicated relationship. Up here in the pure mountain air, fog and rain are common. Bizarre creatures and mystical trees dot the landscape. Across the grassy slopes, giant troops of geladas graze the sweet green grass. Surrounded by trees, hung with lichen or old man's beard, like characters out of The Lord of the Rings. The lichen is a sign of the environment's good health. At the faintest whiff of pollution, it dies off. While lichen also uses trees to reach into the light, the real magic of this species lies in another, much closer relationship. Lichens are actually not one single species, but two, an algae and a fungus. The lives of these are so closely woven that they now appear as one. Fungi can't make their own food through photosynthesis. So they've evolved in partnership with a unicellular species of green algae. The algae photosynthesize, turning sunlight into sugars, which feed the fungi, while the fungus offers support and protection to the microscopic partner nestled in its tissues. This tight-knit relationship is critical to both species, and they've married their fortunes together for life. If one dies, so does the other. A close, mutually beneficial relationship such as this is known as mutualism. Mutualism is so successful, it's created some of the most incredible biological structures on Earth. These occur under the sea, in the warm tropical waters of the Indian Ocean. Colourful reefs abound in its clear blue waters. These are some of the most diverse habitats on Earth. Fish life is prolific. All life on these reefs relies on the unbreakable relationship between coral polyps and microscopic algae living inside their tissues. To the naked eye, coral looks like a single animal. But, like the lichen, it's actually two different organisms. During photosynthesis, the algae produces sugars and lipids. And the polyp feeds on these, using this free food to build the impressive calcium carbonate skeletons that are the very foundation of coral reefs. As they've strived for the essential sunlight they need, coral species have diversified into a number of different forms. Pillars, plates, staghorns and brains, all governed by the desire for light. Every conceivable habitat is used on the busy reefs. Even some that would ordinarily be considered extremely hazardous. The venom-laden tentacles of an anemone are suicide for most fish. A 2-bar clownfish is surrounded. Remarkably, he's safe. An impervious blanket of mucus covering the clownfish protects them from being stung. But they're no freeloaders and will defend the anemones against predators including nudibranchs, sea stars, and other fish. They also help pick parasites from the surface of their host. And on calm nights, their hustle and bustle keeps water moving through the anemones, ensuring there's plenty of oxygen. Other sea anemones have struck a different sort of partnership. They've hitched a ride on the shell of a hermit crab. This provides meals for the anemones, which catch bits of food that escape the crab's claws. In return, the crab uses the anemone's stinging tentacles to ward off predators. So it's win-win. There's another win-win relationship in the heathlands of southern Africa. Across this floral wonderland, a battle for procreation is part of everyday life. Many plant species here throw their spawn to the wind, using wind power to pollinate. This is simple, but can be unreliable, so some species prefer not to leave it up to chance. They invest their energy in creating sweet nectar and brightly colored flowers to attract pollinators such as sunbirds or sugarbirds. One such group of flowers are proteas. Their colorful flowers are like beacons, luring sunbirds with the promise of nectar. As the birds feed, they become dusted with pollen, which they carry from flower to flower as they seek out more nectar. In turn, the sugary nectar helps fuel the high metabolism of the birds as they flit from bush to bush. Plants have been particularly good at forging these kinds of relationships. On the west coast of southern Africa, every spring brings an explosion of life. In a blush of color, the plants open their flowers in order to attract pollinators. This is their breeding season. Flowers of all colors and shapes proliferate. There's lots of competition for suitable pollinators. To increase their odds in the race, the Medestat plant has invested in super long flowers to lure a very special pollinator. It's a long-tongued or tangle-veined fly. His proboscis measures 2 inches or more. This has co-evolved over time alongside the flowers. As one got longer, so too did the other, eventually resulting in an exclusive partnership between the flower and the fly. But this is not without its risks. All bets are on one horse in the race to reproduce. So the plants have evolved a clever system to ensure success. Each flower offers the fly only a small sip of nectar. To get it, he must insert his proboscis up to the hilt. And as he does so, he's rubbed with pollen. But with only a small amount of nectar in each flower, the fly must move from plant to plant in order to get all that he needs. He'll visit hundreds of different flowers in a day, distributing pollen as he goes. This intricate relationship is mutually beneficial to both species. The flower guarantees the services of a dedicated pollinator, while the fly need not share his precious nectar with any other insect species in the area. But not all close relationships involving two species are mutually beneficial. In many cases, one species takes things one step too far, negatively affecting their hapless victim in the process. This is the dark world of parasitism. A herd of African buffalo is resting through the heat of the day. Like the rhino, they're suffering from infestations of parasites. Nature's selfish freeloaders. Ticks are arguably the most iconic parasites in the world, familiar to any household pet owner. These depend on their ability to suck the blood of others. After gorging herself on blood, this African blue tick has mated and fallen from her host into the grass below. For her, life is practically over. Her last task before shriveling away is laying around 2,000 eggs, each the size of a needlehead. It's now up to the next generation. Instinct drives the nymphs up into the long grass. Here they'll wait for passing mammals. It's a tenuous existence, and the wait is long and often futile. Most will fail to find a passing animal within a few months and die. Nymphs can detect increasing levels of carbon dioxide, which indicate the presence of a nearby host. If the animal approaches close enough, the youngsters swarm aboard, like pirates raiding a passing treasure galleon. Ticks are arachnid invertebrates, distantly related to spiders. Their specialized mouthparts enable them to pierce thick hide and suck blood from a range of animal hosts. More than 1,000 ticks can congregate on a single individual. Once aboard, however, blue ticks only latch onto one animal for their entire life. They'll pass through every stage of development while attached, and once the females have mated, they swell up with eggs and drop off their host, resetting the process once more. Parasitism is not limited to the animal kingdom. Many plants have evolved to take a similar advantage of defenseless hosts. Vine-like lianas are one such species that thrives in the forests of Africa. Like epiphytes, they too have hitched a ride on trees into the sunlight high up in the canopy above. Unlike the air plants, however, lianas are rooted in the soil. And the presence of lianas comes at a cost to their host. Trees hung with lianas grow more slowly. The vines also allow small herbivores, such as this millipede, to move from tree to tree as they feed up in the canopy. While this benefits hungry herbivores, it's bad news for the host. Lianas have been shown to increase tree mortality and reduce the host's seeds and fruits. Out of the forest, on the heathland-covered slopes, another parasite invades a host. But unlike many of the species inside the forest, it's not hitching a ride. This tangle of bright green stems is a mistletoe. But there's no romantic Christmas tradition in this relationship. It's stealing the very lifeblood from its host. The mistletoe's roots penetrate the host's stem, taking food and water. Where the roots penetrate the bark, a thick callus forms as the host plant attempts to fight back. But to no avail. The parasitic plant uses its stolen bounty to produce sweet fruits, which are sought after by birds. These then carry the seeds to other plants before depositing them in their droppings on the next host. But the mistletoe can't take too much, or they'll kill their victim. Most successful parasites steal just the right amount, allowing their host to survive. Few kill, for in most cases, they're completely dependent on their hosts. If the host dies, so do they. The matapalo, or tree killer, is a notable exception, otherwise known as the strangler fig. As its name suggests, its life is born from the death of another. This parasite starts out in the canopy. Birds and other fruit eaters deposit fig seeds where they germinate in the uppermost leaves of the host. These harmless origins soon take a dark turn. Over the years, as the fig grows, clinging to the host tree for support, its roots slowly creep down the trunk on their way to the earth to take root. Once the roots embed in the soil, the game's soon over for the host. With a firm base, the strangler fig takes over. It begins developing a strong trunk of its own, smothering its original crutch. As it grows in strength, it also sucks up most of the nutrients and water meant for the host tree, eventually strangling the tree that gave it life. Most strangler figs have hollow cores. Dark and beautiful, they're all that remains of their smothered host. Not all deadly parasites are forest giants. And one of the world's most notorious thrives along the coastline of southern Africa. But it can't be seen. This is Boulders Beach, 18 miles south of Cape Town. One of only 3 mainland breeding colonies of African penguins. This population is growing, but the species as a whole is on the brink of extinction. While investigating their decline, scientists made a surprising discovery. The penguins were suffering from a microscopic parasite in their blood that is a form of malaria. This is closely related to the illness that affects humans. And it's also spread by mosquitoes. Once infected, the penguins, like humans, experience depression, vomiting, and have difficulty breathing. Death often follows. At a seabird rehabilitation facility, these orphan chicks have been rescued from the colony. Their parents were struck down by malaria. The center raises these youngsters, preparing them to be released into the wild. Microscopic parasites such as malaria cause havoc around the world. Millions are spent each year treating victims, including penguins. Having survived their foster home, these penguins are able to return to the wild. As they waddle free, their future looks good. Even if some of the locals are anything but welcoming. Within minutes, the released birds have mingled into the crowds, swimming free once more in the oceans of southern Africa. Parasites, by definition, benefit at the expense of their hosts. But sometimes they aren't the only ones that get an advantage. One microscopic parasite has had a surprisingly positive impact across the tropical savannas of Africa. It's carried by tsetse flies. Tsetses are bloodsuckers, but in their saliva they carry deadly trypanosoma parasites, which cause sleeping sickness. These tiny worm-like flukes swim through the blood, causing illness. Sleeping sickness kills off intruders not co-evolved to survive the rigors of tropical Africa. Humans, horses, and cattle are all at risk. An area about the size of the US, spanning the equator, is affected. But this threat has been a bonus for natural ecosystems. Humans had to avoid tsetse-infected areas throughout history. This left large tracts of Africa relatively wild and untouched. And many of these regions became the original African national parks and reserves because the land couldn't be used for cattle farming. Without these parasites, the relentless destruction of the continent brought on by farming would have continued unabated. Now researchers monitor the spread of the illness carefully and continuously check herds in the surrounding areas for infections. Although there are treatments and strict control measures to reduce tsetse flies across Africa, the benefits of this parasite to conservation will be felt for many generations to come. While some parasites are beneficial and even necessary, for most animals, bloodthirsty ticks are simply unwanted irritants. All mammals are affected. Even the tallest don't rise above the swarms. Luckily, help is at hand. Red-billed oxpeckers target ticks on large mammals by scissoring through their fur with their beaks. The birds get a meal, and the giraffes get rid of some pests. But even this relationship is not as clear-cut as it seems. For many years, it was thought that oxpeckers only benefited large mammals by removing ticks. But new research has challenged this. Oxpeckers also peck at sores and lesions on their host's skin. Now it's thought that they may actually be after the blood inside engorged ticks rather than the ticks themselves. And if bloody cuts and grazes are available, the birds happily feed on these as well. The more the oxpecker jabs at the bloody wound, the slower it heals, and the risks of infection increase. This macabre feeding habit has earned them the nickname vampire birds, and makes the birds parasites. In nature's never-ending web of relationships, the helper can become the harmer in the blink of an eye. Lurking in the forests is another example of the duplicitous nature of some organisms. Bracket fungi are hugely beneficial to natural systems. They feed on dead and decaying trees, recycling valuable nutrients back into the environment. Fungi form their own biological kingdom, with more species than vertebrates and plants combined. Although they look like plants, fungi can't photosynthesize, so they must form partnerships with other organisms, such as in the lichens, or they must feed on other organic material. Some species attack large living trees, sucking valuable nutrients from the gentle forest giants. Bracket fungi species such as these are seldom lethal, and the trees tolerate the unwanted adornments tapping into their trunks way below the canopy. Another species of parasitic fungi has, however, been pressed into service by conservationists in South Africa. As humans moved around the planet, they intentionally and unwittingly introduced new species to the places they visited. Sometimes with disastrous consequences. Some plant species take to their new homes too well and rapidly expand into a nuisance. These are called invaders. One such species is threatening large tracts of the endangered fynbos heathlands of southern Africa. Black wattle, a type of acacia, was introduced into South Africa because its bark was used for tanning leather. Now, huge areas of the region are covered by these invasive trees, crowding out native species. To help combat the invasion, researchers turned to a natural parasite of the trees in their home country, Australia. A rust-colored tumor-like growth or fungal gall. After establishing there was no risk to any indigenous species, conservationists began spraying dense acacia stands with the parasite. The galls don't kill their hosts, but they do dramatically affect growth and seed set, helping slow the spread of this vicious invader. The galls reduce the tree densities of infected sites by 80%. Parasites attack the underbelly of all environments, causing harm to their hosts. But in the right hands, even the worst can be used for good. Every creature faces life as an individual, but rarely alone. All species on the planet are deeply connected in a delicate web of interactions. While some are clearly understood, others are not, reinforcing the need to think of our world not as a collection of isolated individuals, but as a large, magical, mysterious whole. Far more complex than the simple sum of its parts.